Thank you so much for talking to Go I Post. A very happy new year to start with. So, what do you really have in store this year, Chinmayi?
A couple of court cases, definitely. But otherwise, I'm looking forward to a lot of work. I'm looking forward to launching my new business in skincare and all that. I've been working on it the past year. And I was supposed to launch in October, if not for everything else that I felt that I needed to do at that point in time. So perhaps in 2019.
Okay. So now that you spoke about court cases. So coming to the Me Too topic, which has been, creating quite a lot of buzz this year. So today, the veteran actress Saukar Janaki has come up with a pretty insensitive statement about, the actresses who are coming out to speak about what they've gone through. So how do you really feel about it? And your husband has also reacted to it. So how do you really feel about it when people whom you are supposedly supposed to look up to come up with these kind of insensitive statements?
She belonged to a different era. She comes from a different mindset. And there's something that Rahul told me in the beginning, that not to bother about people who are negative. Instead, celebrate those who stood by you. Because I think, especially when a movement is so emotionally heavy, right, like Me Too, where you're talking about sexual harassment and you're remembering all those men who groped you. These are things that you want to forget. You don't want to remember, and it's like buried somewhere. And then when you relive all that, that itself is slightly traumatic. And then going through that and then repeating it again and again, and then having random people on social media asking, so you slept with him then, so it's okay now. So people don't understand the difference between consensual sex and some and coercion. I mean, coercion, I think, is a far cry. People will not even. It's going to be a while before you make people understand the concept of coercion, because then they say that, oh, if you agreed, then it's consensual. No, there is a difference there. But I think by the time we even get to coercion, because it's only now that we are saying, listen, sexual harassment is when a man touches a woman without her consent, and the problem is that so many people don't understand the word itself. Right. Though they are not aware of the word called consent. They think it's concern. They think it's concerned. And then it's they think நீங்க mutual concernல பண்ணதெல்லாம் நீங்க இப்போ வந்து பேசுறீங்க. I'm like, no. I mean, when you go to work, whatever your workplace, and you expect to work, you expect a workplace which is safe for you physically. That's your birthright. Basically. Absolutely. And if a man violates that, and he believes that if he swings his arms and then he can just land it on any woman that he feels like, and say that it's my birthright, I will touch any woman that I want, they have been used to that women being silent, or women quitting the workplace and leaving, rather than go through such harassment. The thing is, I think throughout time there have always been allies in men. Men have always helped such women out. There have always been men who would shield such women from other predators. They are these open secrets, as we call them, right, from the whisper network. So if they know that a woman might be naive, or she might be vulnerable, or even out of a woman had always had trust in her own friends, who are men who she could trust to safeguard her from the unwanted advances of other men, right? So we have also had that. So I have only faced comments like what Saukar Janaki ma'am has said, and YG Mahendran sir, vociferously agreeing to it. Others saying, why are you speaking up after 14 years and why not earlier? I haven't really had too many voices that matter, right, who said, well done. There have been, honestly, there have been, and they have all been Samantha, Rakul, Tapsi. So I decided to instead look this way, count the blessings and celebrate that. They have, from my own singing fraternity, only, Gibran and Govind and Shakti Shri decided to say, yeah, I believe you and I stand by you. So it takes a lot for people to do that. because they know they are also inviting the same trolling upon themselves, especially on social media, being so vicious these days. But yeah, I've become used to it. So used to abuse, so used to criticism, so used to shaming, so used to being called a slut, so used to, oh, you adjusted then, so why now? I think the concept of sexual harassment itself is very lost on a lot of people. What women like us are saying, we are talking about men who touched us without our consent, who touched us without us allowing them to. And that is what Me Too was about. It was about consent being violated in some cases, or lack of consent completely.
And so you've been talking about lately. You have the young generation coming and speaking up for you. So that's kind of some kind of solace. So will we see a change? After say YG Mahindran or Saukar Janaki, who belong to the older generation. Would we see a change next in this industry?
I think
in terms of tolerance, in terms of being vociferous, in terms of coming up and speaking out, in terms of supporting the victims?
It's been, rather than just pinpoint one industry, I think the problem is with society at large, right? So these are various people in society who are in various industries, various professions. Mr. YG Mahindra and Saukar Janaki happen to be in the field of fine arts, but YG Mahindra sir also belongs to the field of education, right? So they have a hoary tradition. The family has contributed so much to education over the years. They have contributed to film, they have contributed to theatre, they have contributed to drama, to music, classical music. They've been patrons. There isn't a field that the family hasn't touched in a good way, right? So you are looking at, I think, the basic thing that all of us who dared, all of us who decided, who knew what we were signing up for when we shared our stories, was to say that it's okay. We wanted to shift the blame from the victim to the predator, to the perpetrator. It's not going to happen overnight. We know that. We know that it was going to be, so many of the women had to take mental health breaks. They had to take counseling. So many of them were shamed to, and I'm used to being shamed on social media. I've been shamed since 2010 and I'm used to that. Perhaps because of that and all the casteist plus, sexist slurs that have come my way for a very long time, maybe I'm a little more strong or experienced or whatever you call it, right? And I realize that some of the most gory stories have really not come out. The predators have not been identified. I mean, can you imagine that not one woman from politics has spoken out? And don't we all know? It's difficult. And even then, women in politics have had allies who have saved them from such men. And those predators have gone about making these women's lives miserable. I was just telling the story about this lady who shared the story that, these men would never let them sleep at night when they used to be campaigning and they were going to places and they would stay in hotels and they would keep just knocking on their doors all night. So can you imagine the amount of, and the point is, sexual harassment has touched women across influence, the most influenced or the most the most influential to the most what shall I say, affluent, to educated, to connected, to the least of them. It's touched every woman across every caste, community, economic strata, education, by every man across all these. The same, so at some point in time, the man across all these stratas of economy and education and influence and power and politics, or whatever you want to call it, feels at some point in time a woman has to be there available for him at his beck and call. So and women have been conditioned, right, to take this, that this is normal. Reema Kalingal, I watched this TED talk that Reema Kalingal shared, that why she was not given fish fry in a table where her father and her two brothers were sitting, and the men in the table were served fish and she wasn't. And it seems she asked, why am I not given? So this is a country which which differentiates and how to feed the male versus the female. This is a country which decides how much a man should be educated versus the woman. This is a country that decides how many children a woman should bear. This is a country which decides should the woman go through or understand that sex can also be pleasurable, and hence it indulges in female genital mutilation. It's so common in Rajasthan and MP and Bihar and UP that those women have normalized it. And when they think back, so many of them choose to be single, whoever choose to be educated. Apparently they're not supposed to feel pleasure, and pleasure is it's a man's domain. So everything, right from nutrition to pleasure to happiness to entertainment, it is a man's domain. What to wear, what not to wear, how to wear your hair, how to wear your clothes is also a man's choice. It's never the woman's choice. So there's so much that needs to change, right? So all of us, every woman across every domain needs to be told to herself that this is not normal. I mean, because and Saukar Janaki ma'am comes from that. Needala ela maravu kai maravu is what she's saying. That's exactly where my mom also comes from. When I asked her if I could tell about Vairamuthu sir, she said no, don't. First thing they'll say no, please go. Nobody's going to say I will cheerlead for you from the sidelines. They say don't. No, simply because they don't want you to go through nonsense. It comes from a place of goodwill most times. Yeah. And that's why it's difficult to actually say no, to rebel against that and say no. I felt the reason why I shared was because once I started sharing stories about Mr. Vairamuthu, I felt that it was unfair of me to keep asking people to share their own stories and not share my own. I felt it was dishonest to the movement and dishonest to myself.
And so, Chinmayi, I would also like to narrate a small incident that a friend of mine shared with me, and pose a related question. So a friend of mine, she had gone to meet a chairman of a company seeking a job, and when he asked her why did she have to quit her previous job, she said that I had experienced a sexual harassment of sorts. So the moment he said that, she felt that he became kind of cagey, and then he said, earlier when she was talking, he was talking to her very well, and she also to an extent thought he was kind of flirting. And after she went and told him this, she kind of got cagey. He kind of got cagey, and he said, I will let you know. And he just completely dismissed the whole proposition. So do you think that women coming out and speaking about this in open is kind of jeopardizing their scope of getting a job, jeopardizing their position in the industry, or at the place of work? And do you think that this will be a kind of men will find this as a they wouldn't give women job easily, because they would start feeling that it's risky, because one advance and we had it.
So I guess at some point it's high time that when men and women started talking like adults, right? And the women can tell the men, and now because generations of men have been used to and normalized to doing whatever they want, and that getting brushed under the carpet saying, oh, he's a man, that's how it will be, right? Now the effort will also have to come from men, and it is coming from men. A lot of well-meaning men want to now say, did I have asked women in their own circles, saying, have I made you feel uncomfortable at some point in time? Conversations have started. And even in dating, even if you're married to someone, this is a country which is now discussing marital rape. Right? So we are at a point where even a husband does not have implicit right over his wife's body. She has the right to say no when she wants to. And with regard to advances and what is flirtatious and what's not, somebody once asked me, how can Tanushri Datta go and complain against Nana Patekar in an item song? It is an item song. They will touch you. Like, yeah, of course, they will touch. When we dance, I have been to dance classes, I have been to salsa classes, where the I think that the dance form itself is pretty intimate, right? And when you go do your salsa and this other one that I learnt along with that, not cha-cha. Okay, never mind. That's this entire ballroom dancing. The man, your partner, does touch you, but the point is, does he make you feel uncomfortable? That's the only difference. We have all been touched by I mean, even a handshake can make us feel uncomfortable, right? So initially, when Parvati Tiruvottu and all these women spoke, Parvati just questioned. And she's been given a red card by the Malayalam film industry. She's not had work. Reema Kalingal is in the same place. When I spoke to Parvati, after I outed Mr. Vairamuthu, I asked her, am I going to be out of work? She said yes. So they were our front runners. And before us, there was this Raya Sarkar's list. Of course, she's out. She's not in this country. And some of the women have had to take a fall. And we took a fall. I think my fall is way more cushioned than what Parvati's was. Way more cushioned than what Bhavna's was. And I see that change in a year. Malayalam film industry is still raging against the women who called out sexual harassment. And none of the forward feminist men who have made some of the finest of films in Malayalam talking about women emancipation have a word to say in real life. Forget saying they are not standing up for the right thing. It's right there. I mean, there was a grievous sexual offense, there was an assault, and they would rather work with a man. Wow. So now, to me, I definitely believe that there are a lot more women in power now, in places of influence and power and authority, and they are in places where they can give jobs. They are in boardrooms. In the longer term, I believe when women stick it out, when women climb the ladder, the corporate ladder, whichever ladder that they want to, in as long as their work is concerned, right? Not just corporate. And they come into positions of power and influence, they can definitely make workplaces to everywhere else safer. First off, it has to start from home. Workplace is the next thing, school is the next thing, but at home, countless children, both boys and girls, are vulnerable to sexual assault from sometimes their primary caregivers. What do we do with fathers and uncles and grandparents raping their own grandchildren and children in their care?
So, Chinmayi, now that we've discussed quite a bit about the serious Me Too movement and what's happening around, if we could finish it with a nice song of yours, a few lines. காதலே காதலே தனி பெருந்துணையே கூடவா கூடவா போதும் போதும் காதலே காதலே வாழ்வின் நீளம் போகலாம் போகவா நீ. Beautiful. Thank you so much for talking to Go Web Post. Thank you.